Hey, welcome back to Roundtail Restoration, everybody. My name's Chris. Behind me here, my 1964 Triumph TR4. Doing a little bit more metal work today. I've got a piece that I'm doing rework on. I wasn't happy with the way that it came out down at the B-post on the interior of the car. Finishes up some welding. Got a new tool, I'll show you that here in a bit. But otherwise, we're keeping on with some metal repairs and trying to get her done. So thanks for watching. Let's get it sorted. So this here is a Yes Welder welding helmet. Frankly, I don't remember the model number. They're relatively common. You can find all sorts of YouTube videos out there on these helmets in particular. It was about 60 bucks or so with a 15% coupon via Amazon. About half the price of the Harbor Freight ones. And couple things to show you as compared to the old helmet. Much larger viewing area. That's the biggest reason why I bought it. It's also got something called True Color or True View. There's a couple different brand names for it, but essentially, instead of that green tinge that you might normally get from the Arc, this is more of a real color. There's also a spot on the inside to be able to put a cheater lens, so instead of having to wear my glasses and have them slide down my nose as I'm welding or anything like that, you can put that cheater lens right in there. And because my old eyes are struggling more and more as I try to do the close work, that's a convenient thing to have. The headgear is a lot more comfortable, and the biggest thing I like is that all the controls are in the outside, so I can kind of adjust them on the fly here. There's also a little switch that you can select welding or grinding or even cutting, and it'll essentially turn the weld function off, the darkening, auto darkening function off just by clicking that switch there instead of dealing with knobs, and you don't lose your settings for your welding when you do that. So I haven't tried it yet. You can see it's all nice and shiny, but I'm looking forward to it. It gets pretty good reviews, and I think for the price, it's pretty reasonable. I'm not a professional. I'm not going to spend $300 on a welding helmet, but I'll let you know how it goes. So I mentioned I was going to be doing a little bit of rework, and that's right in here. I had built this guy right here, and I did a video on that. There's, what did I end up saying? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of metal in here. Just a little bit of overkill and too complicated. So what I did now, and it didn't fit too well either, especially on this arch here. It wasn't really flush to the inner sill. So what I did now is I've only got 2 pieces, but I probably need a third. So I got this piece that's on the inner sill and matches it really well. And then this guy right here, which is just a flanged bent over piece, and this matches really well. I do have to put the bottom flange that'll sit here on the flat. But much better. Not going to be able to weld it because I got to paint it and all that kind of stuff, but I will get it fabricated. But one thing I do have to do that I haven't done yet is put the notch in it to get this little, if you could see that notch right here by my pointer finger, I got to get that notch to match the notch that's back here. So I haven't done that yet, but I think I'm going to break out the bead roller and give that a shot. Do a couple practice runs like I've been doing, but I think that's going to be the trick for that. So I got it most of the way sized up. I was not able to use the bead roller to make that crease not hard enough, so I ended up putting a slit in it and then bending it, and I'll re-weld that back up. This flange here is not welded in, but you can see I got the black mark, and that'll allow me to fair that in and match it up with the rest of the B-post there. So probably what I'll do is get this piece welded up and get that cleaned up, and then set it all in here, and then tack it once or twice, the flange here, and then take it back out, and then finish the welding and cut it down. And then I'll need to put spot weld holes in there as well, but that's okay. It fits better than this thing. I still got to build a flange on the bottom, but again, I can do that after I kind of get some stuff put together here. So we're gonna give this welding helmet a shot here. All right, well, that made a big difference on being able to see and all that kind of good stuff, so it's always a good thing. Get this cleaned up, get it fit up, make sure it's good, and then try to get this flange tacked in and then sized. Well, I said I was going to do some random stuff, and I just decided to pretty much start going for this floor. So not as gentle this time, I guess you could say. 1, lessons learned, and 2, I just don't need to be. These pieces came out with no problem at all. You got a flat piece here, and then this reinforcement piece here, that those can't be saved. You can see this one's all messed up. This one I could have saved it, but it's just a flat piece of metal, really easy to make. You can get these. They are offset a little bit, so they're a little bit more difficult to make. I probably could, but this whole side is gone, and I don't think they're very expensive, but I'll look into that. But this piece, I've made one already for the other side, so that's no problem. And in the front, up in here, all I did was just take the, I got a heavy-duty putty knife and just started smashing through all that stuff that was relatively torn up there. So not really not that big of a deal, and I actually did that quite a bit back here. So cut along the back heel board in here, cut between these two pieces, just kind of cut down here and then over, and then cut up near the firewall where that's still welded up, and then pretty much just kind of lift it out. There's not really anything left down here. That's all lacy, you can see, so there's not going to be a whole lot of cutting. This piece right there, that oblong hole there, that teardrop shape hole, that's for the emergency brake. The earlier TR4s like this one had the emergency brake like the TR2 and TR3 did built into the floorboards, while the TR4As built it into the transmission tunnel or the drive shaft tunnel. But the new floors are based on TR6s, so they don't have that cut out. So I've got to probably all I'll do is once I get the floor out, just kind of take care of that piece and cut the whole thing out, and then etch a template onto the new floorboard so that I can screw that down. All it is a couple holes and then the 3 little screw holes. There's no captive nuts there or anything, so it's going to be relatively straightforward. But that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to, hack away. I don't have any supports in here. I didn't really worry about any body flex. I didn't have any problems with that. So I'm just, it's still going to be attached in a couple spots, but I'm not going to, on the frame like this, I'm not going to concern myself with it. So we're going to go ahead and cut. I'd also like to make the point, one of my viewers brought up the fact that I've been sloppy in my safety gear, especially with regards to grinding and cutting, and not wearing safety goggles. So I've got safety goggles on now, so I want to thank, and I'm sorry that I didn't look before I started talking. I can't remember the person that reminded me of that, but appreciate that. We're going to go ahead, like I said, and just kind of start cutting in various places here. Not really a rhyme or reason yet. Obviously, I'm just going to take the places that are in such bad shape that it doesn't really matter, and then go from there. So what I am going to do here is I am going to get a relief to put in under here, a piece of wood or something, just to lift this up to get it away from the frame a little bit. I do have some concern. I know the frame runs like this, so I've got to worry about that when I cut here. And I'm going to just cut straight across up here, and this piece of the floor is going to come out. So let me grab that real quick, and we'll see what we can do here. So the floor is out, like I showed you, and just kind of went around and cleaned some of the heavier gunk up and stuff like that. The can't get to the outer rails yet because they are essentially attached to the floor, and the floor is still attached to the sill, so that won't work. But I'm going to go up there in the front and try to get that piece out. I know that light up there is not that great,
And we'll see maybe about getting this piece back here out in that rail that attaches to the prop shaft tunnel. We'll see how that goes. But first I got to get the car up in the air so I can get underneath it without hurting myself, and we'll do that next. All right, so working in this area in here, this is where the floor, see if I can reach this a little bit better. This is where the floor comes together. You've got the transmission tunnel that kind of comes down and tack welds into the floor. And then in this corner here, it's all brazed. So I've got a cutting wheel and I've got some sandpaper on I finally got one of those little finger sander things. So I'm just going to kind of go in there and see if I can't kind of break that away and just chisel it and screwdriver it, and just to try to not mangle that too much. But it's all, like the other side was, all brazed in there and everything. So we'll see if I can get this out without causing too much damage. Right in here, I think you can see there's a whole bunch of brazing. You can hopefully see that brass. So that's where this little finger sander hopefully will come in handy here. Get that on camera. So this is a little guy, a Wen. This was recommended to me by one of my viewers, and I had also coincidentally found it. And I also invested in some halfway decent 3M sanding things, tapes, whatever you want to call them. So we'll just see if we can't do some damage in here. All right, well, that wasn't quite as bad as I thought it might be. Just using the sandpaper like that seemed to have helped. And I actually preserved a good amount over here. So we'll call that a win. Let's see if we can straighten this up a little bit and clean it up. Got to cut this piece away over here. All right, so that's what that looks like from the engine compartment here. The floor kind of went under there. This is the vertical flat part of the transmission tunnel, and then that in that corner there is the vertical part of the firewall. I'll show you inside. All right, a little bit better, hopefully, of a look here. You can see this notch right here in this portion of the floor where it's kind of squared, like a square tube almost. That's what we'll go in there. So we'll get that cleaned up and be done. All right, so I mentioned that I have to recreate this cutout for the emergency brake in the new floorboard. So I'm going to start now and just cut this existing one out here so I can make myself a template. All right, everything seems to line up pretty well as far as aligning with the old one. It's a pretty good fit. But now I need to get it down flush, and I'm a little leery to cut it here. Well, I guess with the hole lined up, though, it doesn't really matter. So I'm probably going to cut this piece right here, and that way that'll lay down flat, and that'll allow me to etch that piece in there. All right, so that's going to go down something like that. Looks good. Got a little pop rivet here from this button, whatever, for the carpet or something. I'm going to go ahead and grind that flush so this will sit down a little bit better. All right, so this is how it's going to look in the final before I trace it. So everything's lined up here. Even the ribs are lined up, so it's a pretty good stamping. This is British Motor Heritage, so I expect it to be pretty good. I got a little bulge here. I want to go ahead and flatten that out, but otherwise it'll be ready. So I'll just take a scribe and scribe this, and then I'll probably just drill those holes right now with it as it sits. Again, I got to clamp it, but otherwise I don't think this is going to be too bad at all. All right, got the thing clamped down here. It's about a 9/64 appears to be hole here, so I'm going to go ahead and drill those three again. One final check. All right, using the hole here for where the jack goes when you want to jack up the car. Interestingly, you got to jack it out from inside the car. So that's what the reference is there. We'll go ahead and get these holes drilled. All right, got that. Now we'll go ahead and we'll etch that piece there. All right, so you can clearly see that etching line. So now probably just going to take the Dremel, I think, work my way around that nice and slow, and then well, that'll be sorted. All right, another little toy that I got carbide burrs. Picked them up at the freight, the Chief brand. They I'm hoping they'll hold up a little bit better than I would expect the ones on Amazon to hold up. They were about 60 or 70 bucks. They're not cheap. You got a little 4-pack here. 4-pack of the size I just showed you, and a real small, and then the angled ones. So this will be the first time using these to try to get this extra metal off. And I've got it on an air die grinder, angle grinder. So we'll see. All right, pretty happy with the way that came out. Maybe, if anything, it's a little small, but I'm pretty sure all this is like a rubber boot that goes over the handle of the emergency brake, and then a metal plate that kind of screws down and keeps it nice and tight. So I doubt that's going to be a problem being a little bit small, but everything lines up really well. And yeah, that's sorted. So that's going to do it for this video. I am going to have an engine video coming out soon, so please keep an eye out for that. Me putting the cylinder liners in and getting them sized up. That's a critical measurement. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.